Hello people, in this video we are going to learn to use the tracker on Fusion page in DaVinci Resolve. This is one of the most important tools when it comes to compositing when your clip is in motion. This time we are going to use as an example this scene. We are going to add that panel to this amazing scene. We are going to use the tracker and other tools to make it look professional. So my name is Baudilio B. Perez, I am a filmmaker and film editor, and let's get to it. I'm going to drag into the nodes tray this first set, this panel over here. And what we need to do is to make this panel match the background motion. We must understand that due to the perspective nature of this clip, we are able to add some assets in the background. Why? Because actually, as long as we reset into the image, that background is not distorting dramatically. All those objects you can see in the image that are closer to us, they are supposed to be more distorted than those ones that are on the background. On this side over here. So the first thing we must do is to detect what is the motion of these points over there. And in order to make it, we must add a tracker node. I'm going to press on Shift and space, and I'm going to look for the tracker, and the tracker node is going to be displayed. You can see on the screen the tracker, but now we must learn how to use it. So we must click on the tracker and we must position the tracker on top of this wire here. You can notice that the tracker has also a background input, a foreground input, and mask also. So in order to track the clip properly, try to make sure that this tracker is connected to the media by the background input. This connection right here. You can move this up to the point you want, and then I'm gonna make sure that my render selection is properly created. These lines you can see here, these two yellow lines, you are able to move these yellow lines up to the point you want, but you must select all the way. So you can move these lines to the extremes, but actually you can select right here, auto render range, and it's gonna select all the way. So once you selected all this render range, you are able to click right here on track forward, then reverse. So the software has tracked that point we selected on the background. This is one of the ways you can do to track the clip. There is another tool right here that is the point. It's more traditional because the interlude track tends to predict the clip's motion, but the point track is not predicting anything. It's only paying attention to what it detects on the image, So I'm going to move this. I can move this clicking here on this square right here on the corner. But if I click on the other corners, I can move the frame. I can modify the frame. So I'm going to leave this like that. And I'm going to move this to some point. For example, right here, this point up here. Pay attention to this. Sometimes you are modifying, for example, this track is over here and it becomes red. It's telling you that it's not able to track anything. So you must click here, for example, and then go back to the tracker, and now it's able to track the image. The most important thing is that the tracker is connected to the clip you want through the background input, So once we have this selected, I can disable, for example, this one, and I can go directly through this button over here. It has already tracked the image, but it found some problems. For example, this point up to here, the tracker got confused due to the fact that this branch was on the tracker way, So I'm gonna try to do the process again. I'm gonna delete this point over here. I'm gonna add it again. Okay, and I'm gonna select another point. For example, this one. I'm going to modify the frame. That's it. I'm going to click on another node, this, and I'm going to go back to the tracker. We already have the tracker available, no? I'm going to click over here, track forward and reverse. And there you are. The tracking is already created, That is perfect. So what we are going to do next, We are gonna detach this from here, and I'm gonna reconnect this to the media out. We can go straight forward to our set. This time is the panel. I'm gonna visualize the panel on the left. You can see here our panel, and I'm gonna put this panel on top of the highway. You can see that now is on the main monitor. So what we need to do is to give the panel that motion we detected with the tracker. So we need to add a transformation node. So this transformation node is like an effect node. So we are going to put this effect on this branch over here. So we must click on the transform node and we go to the inspector. You are going to see several parameters: the plot, the pivot, center, size, aspect. So we are going to position the mouse cursor up to here. I'm going to click on the right mouse button and I'm going to click on connect to tracker 1 IntelliTrack 1 path. And we are going to click on position. And now we can notice on the main monitor that our panel is following that tracking. We don't have any tracker connected to this panel, to this media node. What we have done is transferred all the tracking information into this transform node. But now you can notice that this panel is not in the right side. So what we are going to do to modify this position, we can go directly into this merge node that in turn has these parameters over here that you can modify perfectly. We are going to move the center, not modifying the tracking. We're going to zoom in over here. And I can modify also the size to give it a real perspective. I think that is great. And we already have the panel on the right position and also with the proper motion. But you can notice that this beam is overlapping the grass and we don't want that. We need this behind the grass, So what we are going to do is to add a mask. We are going to press on Shift and space and we are going to look for a polygon. Let me mention that you can access to this same polygon right here. Polygon. And you can have 2 masks, So I'm going to position this mask over here and I'm going to connect this mask on this input. You can see that suddenly this panel has disappeared. What we need to do is to create a mask. Once you create the mask, everything that is going to be inside the mask is going to be displayed on the canvas, on the main monitor. So what we are going to do, I'm going to zoom in here and I'm going to move this mask to this point. And we can see we have cropped the image in some way that it seems to be behind the grass, and it looks quite good. But to make it more real, what we need to do is to click on polygon to change this parameter over here that is soft edge to make it blends with the grass, I'm going to zoom in right here so you can see in detail how it's blending into the grass. I can actually move the border width. I'm going to move a little up to here. I'm going to move this a little more up to here. For example, like that. But pay attention what we had done here. When you create a mask like that, automatically Fusion page is creating a kind of automation. So we must go to this tab over here, keyframes. So what we need to do is preserve the frame we want. I think this one, So I can select this keyframe and this another keyframe, and that's it. Due to the perspective, we are able to modify this automation to make it more real. Maybe at the end, it's better that it displays a little more up here. So the mask is going to modify its form throughout the way. That looks better, I'm going to close this keyframes tab. I'm going to go back to here. We can actually modify the color of this panel. I'm gonna add another color corrector node, and I'm gonna put these after the transformation node, you know. But pay attention to this. This is very tricky. Once you add a color corrector node, by default, it's gonna modify the entire frame. For example, if I move the contrast, it's gonna modify the entire image. And you don't want that. You must tell the software that you want to modify only the set you have added. So in order to do that, you must go directly to options here and check this box over here, pre-divide, post, multiply. Once you click right there, you are able to modify only the asset's colors. I can decrease, for example, the saturation. I can move the colors to the warm tones, for example. We can check all the motion. That looks great for me. But I can add another effect, for example, Gaussian blur, because at that distance, the objects are supposed to be blurred. So I'm gonna add this blur over here after the color corrector. So you go to the inspector, you can see here, and you can modify the blur. I think that matches the actual clip. You can see that there is some mistake over here because actually the frame is kind of biting the panel. What we need to do on the transformation node, we go to the transformation node and we can decrease the size of the image, you know? Because the first node that is modifying the clip's position is this transformation node. So we are going to modify the size right here to prevent the panel exceed the real frame of the image, you know? So here we are exceeding, we must prevent that, you know? So I'm going to let the size go down a little bit, and that is enough. Perfect, we can check again this. But also due to the lighting conditions and the distance between the foreground and that panel, we are supposed to add some glow on the panel. So we are going to add, for example, a glow node, and I'm going to position that glow node between the Gaussian blur and the merge node. We are supposed to add the newer effects on top of the rest of the layers, you know, inside this branch, you know, the branch corresponding to this panel. So you can go directly to this glow and you can modify the nature of this glow. I think that is great, you know. That looks great. And this is how we can do to track a clip and make our set to match the clip's motion. I'm gonna go to the edit page to the full screen. And that's it. You already know how to use the tracker in Fusion page. That is a very, very important tool when it comes to compositing. But if you know anything about DaVinci Resolve, you can go to this another video right here where I teach you how to use DaVinci Resolve in just 33 minutes completely from scratch. And if you want to take your editing skills to the next level, you can go to my link on the description down below. That is an amazing program. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave me a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell. I see you the next time.